evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 93 of New York Red Bulls Discussion Group, the podcast. I am Garry Redmond. Greetings and salutations. Well, the season is over. That's it. There are no more games to be played at the Cathedral. There are no more games to be played at all. Although our heroes fought the good fight, but still got knocked out by FC Cincinnati anyway, which we are going to recap that in all of its painful glory. There were a lot of mistakes to be made, and that's probably the reason why they're going on. We're staying home. But we do have a special guest coming up tonight, and that is none other than the producer of the Soccer Over Gotham podcast, who I'm sure their friends and family are having a very good time because their season is going on. And we're going to be talking about that. His name is Garry Gibson, and why you should be giving that podcast a listen if you happen to be in the good company of New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. And speaking of which, because of that, they played a game last night versus the Portland Thorn. They're winning in extra time. And what do you know? They did it again. They knocked out the three-time defending champions, boys and girls. And if that doesn't get you excited, nothing will. Of course, we're going to talk about that as well. Of course, final word from the live audience. I see some of you guys coming online right now. Good evening, and how you doing? Good to hear from you. We're going to be talking to you guys real soon. And, of course, we're going to have the most dangerous part of the show, since the NWSL Championship is next week. This is going to be match predictions and everything else about that. Now, of course, as always, this is a live show that's going on right now, even as we speak. If you miss it, don't worry about it. The recording will be available on our YouTube channel and Spotify.com the very next day. This is season number 3 of our wonderful podcast. You can also check out our previous episodes there as well. And one last thing before we continue, we strive to make this podcast, your podcast, very better on every episode. And for that reason alone, we do this for you. So if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, do send them our way in our email address, which is rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. Once again, rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. So let's talk about, the end. As I bring in two of my wonderful co-hosts, the wonderful Mark Coates and the model, Lanre Badmus. I'm going to start with you, Lanre, because we talked about this, right? We what did we say that the team had to avoid if they wanted to move on to the next round?
Losing at home.
Well, we also said mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of them in this series. You can't do that against a stacked team like FC Cincinnati. And we knew they were coming in with house money, okay? Game 1, they stubbed their toe, and it basically looked clownish, which led to the 2 goals that was now an 0-3 goal. And thank goodness this isn't an aggregate series, or otherwise they'd be really in trouble. But then in game 2, heroic effort. A very much heroic effort.
Very heroic.
Barlow scored. Got us, gave the fans just a glimmer of hope. And then it was mistake city. I'll let you. It's like it's better if you guys tell the joke, because you tell it funny. I mean, I saw you on the game thread. You was just livid. I mean, you were having dinner with for family and friends and such. And after the game was over, you blew up like a nuclear bomb. It was just that bad. I mean, go ahead, man. I mean, I'm sure you saw the replay. What did you see that just made you go off, man?
Well, Andres Reyes, another mistake. I don't know what happened to him, the last, 3 or 4 weeks of the season. He's just been so much more mistake and error prone than he had been his entire time here. And unfortunately, all that came at the worst time, especially on Saturday. And then his penalty kick that lost us the game was just so weak. If I'm being honest, as soon as Tolkien missed, I just kind of knew that
was the heartbreaker. right there. That was I mean, everyone was ready to celebrate, and it was like, okay, here it is. Here's the guy that's going to get us into Game 3, and he shanked it off the post. The team, everyone on the bench, everyone standing on the line, just dropped to their knees. It was just it was like, well, we go again.
I felt worse after Goma missed, honestly, because Goma, that kid's fought so hard to get back. A lot of other kids in his position would have just thrown the towel on the year, but he made his playoff debut in game one, in a short cameo. Then here he came on, he could have won the game for us, but unfortunately that was not to be. He skied over the bar, which honestly brings into question Troy's substitution patterns because it's like, why are you bringing him on just to take a penalty? We saw that with Lewis Morgan in the Leagues Cup against Philly, and he skied his over the bar too. Just hadn't properly warmed up, lack of proper game action, lack of proper match fitness, and that's what happens. History repeated itself, unfortunately.
Let
And
me ask you
now,
this. Yeah, let me ask you this though, because this is something that you brought up that was very important. That was very important. Playing the role of devil's advocate here, based on the way the team was built, people were coming in late because of injuries and such. Did you feel that Troy even had a choice?
hmm, honestly, with how the season's shaped up, how the roster is shaking out, our injuries, I'm not sure he had that much of a choice. I think he could have used Hurtado a little more, but I mean that kid's going back to Watford anyway, so
Yeah,
unfortunate.
I
Thin
mean,
thin roster, not a lot of depth. Our depth is kind of obliterated this season through injury.
good evening, Vincent. How you doing, man? We'll talk to you in a sec. Um, Mark, the the game as far as referees is concerned was, based on who was refereeing that night, you knew there was going to be there would be some drama. I saw you took notes the
Some,
entire.
some.
Okay, let's hear it, man, because
Look, I had to.
you were running around with the red carton with the red crayon everywhere. I mean, it
It
was.
was. It was. Listen, I watched. I'm going to be honest with you. I watched the replay and I tried to be as impartial as I could,
Uh-huh.
and it.
Here it
You
comes.
know, no, I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people were screaming, and I'm in 116, so I'm up at that end the first half, and
Mhm.
I'm watching. Now Barlow's, falling over. There was no penalty there. I mean, it was a little rough, but I could see him letting it go. But some of the calls were just unbelievable. The Biazga handball was just. I mean, I watched that 3 different times, and I just that's
Yeah.
the whole problem with the handball rule. It's natural position of the arm. How do you interpret that? If you don't like us, you're going to interpret it as, it wasn't a foul. I'm not going to call a PK. It just, and again, it's human nature. Does it deserve a PK? It's a tough situation for the referee, and I'm not giving this guy a pass because there was a lot of
And he's got to look at it in a split second, although
yeah,
he has VAR to back him
right,
up.
and they were in his ear, and I don't know. I mean, the first couple times I looked at it real quick, I wasn't sure. Then when they went to slow motion, I was like, yeah, I think I would have been pointing to the spot. So you had that call. You had Luquinhas get fouled a couple times where he didn't get the call. And he wasn't diving like he has in the past, but he's still a little bit too much flopping for me. And the referee
Okay.
doesn't like that. And Amaya, I just cannot.
No referee likes that,
No,
No.
man.
And then,
not at
but
all.
but but like the Amaya foul early on, yeah, he clipped him on the back. All right, the referee talks to him, but everybody kept getting up in his face, the same as the game last week. Why does Cincinnati feel that they can get up in the referee's face? The
Correct
referee
me
should
if
have
I'm
put
wrong.
that.
Wasn't there supposed to be some sort of moratorium
There was there
on
was that
on
was the
players
beginning of the
doing
season.
that?
They were told that was going to. I'm waiting. Obviously, I watched the second team a lot this year. The next pro rules are coming for MLS, And some of these guys are going to realize that they're not going to be able to play these games anymore. All right. You kick the ball after the whistle's blown, it's a yellow card. It's not even like you did it on accident. No, you're getting a yellow card. It's a delay of the game. It's time wasting, and the referees are going to call
Take
it.
your soul sweet time
Yeah.
going off the field.
If you
yellow card.
right, you
They're
have
gonna do that.
whatever 15 seconds to
You'll
get off
love
the
this,
field.
Lanre. You'll love that.
And like, because as a coach, tactically you make your moves the way you see fit. When you want to substitute a guy at the end of the game and you're trying to run out the clock, you look for the guy who's the furthest away from center line. That's the guy you're going to sub out with 2 minutes left in the game, because it's going to take him a minute and a half to walk back. Now the referee may count some of that time, but this guy did not have control over this game. And some of the VAR checks I thought were questionable, but there were a lot of fouls called, and there was a lot of talking to, and that's.
I mean, there was, if we're going to be fair about certain things, Andre Reyes and of course Tom Barlow, who stayed in the game when they were doing their ticky tack fouls, and one in particular, Reyes, he should have been shown straight red on his.
Well, even the foul that Barlow,
everybody in the press box held their breath. It was like, oh boy, I thought, okay, so he's staying on that, and then that had the Cincinnati bench livid. They were like, well, wait a minute. But then again, there were rough tackles on both sides. So you're right about losing, the referee losing their control. Speaking of losing control, what was that celebration down in the South Ward nonsense? I mean,
oh my God! Oh, ready?
What was that nonsense all about? I mean, yeah, we should. Okay, nobody in the supporters section should be throwing jack. Okay, let alone you got dudes walking around with lasers pointing at players. What's wrong with y'all? I mean, that's uncalled for. But
there was some out of control
honestly,
stuff.
You want me to be honest right now?
Oh, go ahead.
I don't blame them. I don't blame the supporters for throwing things. It's like, what do you expect when you're going up there? What do you expect? There's so many classier ways to do this. You are a professional soccer team. We are not even your rivals. New York and Cincinnati are not rivals.
Well,
so I don't know that intentional wind-up stuff. It's not like Columbus, bro. We're New York. It's like everyone wants to have beef with us. I'm seeing all the slander on Twitter from
you seem to be forgetting.
They're slandering us so much. It's like, we're so happy you guys are so trash. Like, why are you bitching so much? You beat us, and you're still bitching about us like 2-3 days after the fact. Like, stop, bro. Stop. And no, it's not soft. It's disrespectful what your players did. And I pray that Philadelphia blasts this shit. I pray, man. I pray.
Well,
Philadelphia, I need that club and that fan base humbled immediately. Credit to Pat Noonan. He said, yeah, okay, they should expect that. That was foolish. He's their coach. He's the real one. He's at least more tolerable than Jim Curtin. But nah, I need Cincinnati's team and their fan base humbled expeditiously. And if it has to be Philly to do it, so be it. So be it. Fuck Cincinnati.
I've been waiting all day for that.
I'm sorry.
I've been literally waiting all day for that.
I'm mad as
that just made my day, man.
Just so we can, as I say, clean up the mess here a little bit. Pat Noonan was not pleased at his team.
No, he wasn't. He shouldn't be.
I'm crediting him.
And I quote: "If you go up there talking trash and whatnot, what do you expect? Okay, you're supposed to be champion. You want to be champions. You want to be looked at as champions, and you did anything but. Plus, the soccer guys don't like it when you try to start a riot. This ain't South America, all right, where we're surrounded by soldiers standing between you and them. Okay, I didn't see any. I just saw. I'm not disrespecting the guys at Securitas. They do a wonderful job keeping the place safe for us to watch the footy. But if everybody decided to say, you know what, the heck with it, let's just bum rush these guys. There ain't nothing in the world that's gonna stop you from some of you guys wanting in a hospital. And in all defense to Matt Miazga, he's a homeboy. Hold on. He's a homeboy, okay? Yeah, what he did was stupid, as my mom would like to say. That was kind of stupid, okay?
He's
If
dumber
you was
than a
gonna,
bag of rocks.
I mean,
Kind
if
is
you were
kind of
going to
being
show
generous.
your love to the people that showed you love back in the day when you were wearing red, do like everybody else do. You don't celebrate in front of the fans. You don't do that. You wait till the final whistle. You go to them and say, yo, nothing personal, y'all. Just business. Everybody and everyone in South Ward understands that. That when somebody who played for us go to the other team, there has to be a modicum of respect, especially if you were with us and it was during the good times. Remember? We won Shield number 2 because of him. Okay, him and that terrific defense. Okay, we had the league's top defense with him on it back in the day when we were making that wonderful ascent from nowhere land to contender. Anybody remember that? I'm sure you do. So I'm sure in his heart, okay, when he realizes it, oops. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why everybody was so like he was supposed to come back, smart ass. He was always a smart ass. He was always talking trash left and right. Maybe you guys wasn't paying attention, but Ask City who wanted to fight him, okay, after games, okay?
Yeah, well,
Ask Philly who wanted to throw him down in the parking lot.
He was the one who swung for a home run.
I mean,
in Yankee Stadium
was talking trash.
So,
so now he comes back. This is news to you?
No.
Clutch my pearls. He's talking trash. He's always been that way. Even when the men's national team, everybody remember how he famously, put the hand over the short, some, diminutive Mexican. Like, I'm up here, bro. Where you at? I mean, he's been doing this stuff in his career.
I'm not surprised, but I mean, for him to act like it was like he was shocked that they were screaming at him. I mean that was nonsense.
I said, this is Matt Miazga.
Yeah.
This has always been Matt Miazga, which is why, but to your point, and every single one of you, I'm talking about Torresita, I'm talking about my beloved Empire SC, I'm talking about all you guys in the Viking Army crew. Strength and honor to all you guys. But okay, he was stupid. Okay, just leave it at that. Stupid. Okay. I'm sure that if he had thought about it and go, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. Should have waited until after I do love y'all guys. I do. He does. I mean, what do you think he was going to do? After when it's all said and done, guess what he's going to do? Go home in Jersey. You don't think he's going to remember that? He'd be like, hey, Miazga, yeah, I got a bone to pick with you. And this is some of the crew in this neighborhood. They're gonna let that go, but hey, credit to them. So, it's Lisa, Lisa, I agree with you 110%. He's a bully, but he used to be our bully. We loved him when he was talking trash, when he was wearing red and he was wearing red. Oh yeah, people seem to forget that, but he's been doing that all his career, which is probably the reason why he didn't stay very long in Europe. I mean. You're gonna talk trash.
They don't tolerate a lot of that.
But you gotta
talk trash. You better back it up.
Anything after us, anything. This is the first big thing he's done since he's left Red Bulls. Can you believe that? How long has it been?
No.
7 years now. 7 years. This is the first thing he's done. Is win a division and advance one run in the playoffs over us.
Every single one of the
just
fans.
Just a wind-up merchant.
Some of the fans didn't talk to me after the game. We did. He said, "Hey, Red Bull didn't offer him enough money." Well, from what we hear, you didn't want it.
No, he didn't want to come back.
I kept that in my head, but that was his explanation. I mean, well, dude, from what we hear from people in your camp, you saying no, absolutely not.
He took less money to go to Cincinnati.
You're
because he didn't want to come back here.
Less. Right,
Yeah.
You're being paid less. Okay, so.
But he was a bigger fish. Yeah, but you got to remember too. You look at where we were when he was coming back.
Now, the reason why I said that what he did was stupid is because, well, MLS saw that nonsense and said, "Oh, so you're trying to start a riot? Okay, tell you what, you're gonna get a timeout," meaning he's gonna miss the semifinal. Okay, for those of you folks who are not up to, if you guys got smartphones, download the international football rules on your, because it's right there. If you receive a yellow card during penalty kicks, it counts as 2. So yeah, that's why he's sitting out, and which is really bad because last I checked, he's the only healthy center back they have. Everybody else is injured, and they're going to be, if they face Philly, that's going to be a problem. I mean, they're going to need their offense, but that's not our problem anymore. So.
Well, you mentioned losing control. We forgot to talk about one other person who lost control.
Oh,
and that was our coach.
Yeah, he received a yellow card. We don't know if that's going to carry.
No, he got 2 yellows.
Season. 2 yellows.
Well, that's why he wasn't on the bench for the PKs.
Well, you know what? Seeing how the referee, as you earlier put it, Mark, lose control, he was losing control over that referee's self control. Because he couldn't understand for a reason why they were hacking his players and they were getting into the referee's face while he's being told to shut up. So at some point, yeah, I can see why Troy got kicked, okay, because he had enough. But he's sitting in the locker room while all the drama, of course, of the penalty kicks that ran out. And there's one thing I love, when I'm sitting in the press box and I'm writing, of course, I wasn't writing an article. I was also doing the game thread. There was some drama. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to see drama, wanted to see controversy, wanted to see excitement. At the end of the day, wanted to see a win. Didn't get the win.
I want to see.
2 out of 3 wasn't bad, though.
2 out of 3, right? Didn't get the win. So it just at the when it's all said and done, the season is done. So I guess there's something I want to bring your attention before we wrap this up, boys. MLS put out a story about the Red Bulls, and they said they recognize great expectation after the playoff heartbreak. I hate when they use those words, playoff heartbreak, because after all, this is something that we knew that was going to happen. They were playing with house money. Okay. This is what Troy Lesane said, and I'm repeating him after during the press conference. He said this loud and clear about where he finished this season. Look, where did we finish, boys? I want you to tell everybody. We didn't finish first or second or third. Where did we finish, Lanre, specifically?
8th.
There you go. That's it. 8th. Now, this is the reason why I'm telling everybody in the group that this was not a celebratory thing to be happy about. We finished 8th. Barely finished 8th. We happened to grab the last muffin from the table, from the dinner table, and got in, pretty much, with our backsides intact. And were there no quit on these boys? No. And we're proud of that fact. We're proud that they fought hard. We're proud that they had a lot of heart. But they're generally a young crew that made a lot of mistakes. And this is the thing that I was really worried about. And unfortunately, so was the coach. He says loud and clear about where we finished the season. It's great to make the playoffs for a 14th straight season as a club, he said at the postgame. Okay, this is reference to messaging he conveyed since the stoppage time PK earned him a 1-0 win in Nashville on decision day. Remember that? He said, hey, we're in the playoffs, but by no means, we understand it. This is not the standard. This is not how we want to get in the playoffs. No professional team likes the idea of backing themselves into a playoff position. None. We survived American relegation by the skin of our teeth. Yes, there will be some T-shirts next season for this.
Can't wait.
It really, folks really, Mark, you remember people got on my case about this. It's like, hey man, it's the playoffs. We should be happy. We should be celebrating. Happy, yes. Celebrating, no.
No, actually, okay. I told you I was surprised we actually made it in. I couldn't believe going into decision day that we were in a position where we were actually we had an opportunity to host a game.
Right.
I was like, how is this possible? I mean, we've been.
I mean, the fact that we were able to host the game, I was happy for that. I was like, okay, the boys got. I mean, but folks said, well, I'm not going to the game because they finished 8th. Are you kidding?
No, I'm glad I was there.
Are you kidding?
I was there. I watched all 5 goals go in, and I was in shock after the third one.
Are you kidding? What?
It was great. It was wonderful having an extra
some
couple
of the Red Bull
games.
out boys. I mean, they're going to stand their ground. Okay, bravo. Bully for you guys. Okay. But, you guys, I mean, the boys fought hard to get there. At least honor them by showing up. Okay? We'll worry about getting knocked out later. Well, now this is later. Okay? We got knocked out. Okay? By the way, he continues. Okay? That's something that doesn't need to be a throwaway, he says. Every club that's not in the playoffs at the moment would love to be in their position going into these matches and competing against this level against Cincinnati. But we do need to make improvements as a club. We have to do better, and I think there's a greater expectation of what this club can be and has been before. Now, before he became the head coach, ladies and gentlemen, he was the assistant coach. So he understands the level where it's supposed to be. Hell, even I put in a tweet, on our Twitter page, asking, okay, you want to blame, 28 years, no cup. You want to put the blame on everything and everyone, players, coaches, front office, have had it. But at some point, the folks who are running this franchise have to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, what franchise do they want to be? What franchise do they want to become? Because I know what the fans want this franchise to be. I know what the fans and the supporters want this franchise to become. We're waiting for you guys to meet and exceed our expectations. Not the league's, not the critics, ours. It's kind of weird and heartbreaking that we go through this every season where making the playoffs is great. It's not. It never is. Picture the Knicks making the playoffs every year for the last 14 years, only getting knocked out of the first round. You think their fans will be happy? Well, no.
Nope.
They'll be the butt of jokes on every morning sports show. Oh, the Knicks? Oh, again? No. When they made the playoffs after what was it? A few almost a decade absence? Yeah, people were happy. People were happy. So yeah, great. We made the playoffs after 10 years. Been a while.
But that's
Giant fans. We made the playoffs since 2013. Been a while. Yeah, okay, that's something.
Well, the Jets and the Giants are the 2 worst teams in the NFL for the last 10 years. Games.
Yeah, but still, it's not making the playoffs. It's winning the Super Bowl, guys. It's winning the whole damn thing. We got one team, one game away from doing just that. We wish we'd be in that position. I'm not saying that we should trade places and not buying long shot. Hey, one club is doing their thing. Another club, unfortunately, are still finding a way. Now, I'm going to ask you guys before we put this to bed. Speaking of which, let's actually do our little homework here. Final score, of course, for those of you who weren't there, it's 1-1. FC Cincinnati wins in penalties, 8-7. So what happens at this point, for those of you who care? Well, right now, FC Cincinnati is sitting in the catbird seat, and as Lanre mentioned, they're waiting for the winner of Philadelphia versus New England. Meanwhile, Columbus and Atlanta, they're playing tomorrow. Columbus has the 1-0 lead. Orlando and Nashville, they also play tomorrow. Orlando has the 1-0 lead. The winner of those two friends will face each other. Over in the West, Sporting Kansas City shockingly knocks out the number 1 seed, which we would have done that. St. Louis City. They're sitting waiting for the winner of either Houston or RSL, and they're playing game 2 tonight. The winner, Houston, of course, has the 1-0 lead. If they win, they face Sporting Kansas City. Meanwhile, LAFC, they won the series, finally knocked off Vancouver, 3rd seed over the 6th seed. And meanwhile, they're waiting for the winner of Seattle and Dallas, who pushed it to a 3rd game. third and deciding game. That will take place on the 10th. When it's all said and done, you'll just simply have the semifinals. In case you all have forgotten, the semifinals are a one-and-done deal. It's not a series. That's it. There'll be a knockout round with all the extra time and everything else go for it. So before we move on to the next segment, boys, welcome to the, welcome to the off season. So what next for the Red Bulls? What are you guys expecting to see? What are you guys hoping to see? And something tells me what we're not going to see. Lanre, I'm going to start with you first.
Okay. What I want and expect to see is a complete clean out of the front office. Dennis Hamlin and Jokic Schneider are
That's not going to happen, but go on.
least competent front office guys in all of MLS, and that's putting it very, very quickly. I'm just trying to be generous with my words for once. Those guys, both at a minimum, both need to go. We need to have people who are knowledgeable about this league, who are actually steadfast in making deals, and we need to also not have such a rigid, strict adherence to a certain system, this certain system that we've been playing that the league has now found out the past 5 years. We need to be more fluid with it. We need to be more flexible. We need to have maybe like a 75-25 adherence proportion. We need to be willing to be more flexible. I honestly, I want to see at this point I'd like to see Troy get a full season. I'm willing to see what he can do if he's actually given proper competent weapons and ballers to work with, and hopefully a good clean bill of health for most of the season, because I think a lot of people are missing that, and either like the fan base's complaints or other fan base's slander of us that we have had Lewis Morgan out basically all year. We had Dante Van Zier missing the last 2 months of the season.
He was a
but
I hate to say
this, but front office needs to get it together. They need to actually spend money wisely for once. They have not done that in a while, and need to get proper ballers to get this club back to its former glory and actually take it to glory that we've never seen it before. Because every day I have dreams about falling like a baby the day this club finally wins MLS Cup. And every single year I feel like it's further and further away.
Mickey for sporting director.
Sure, why not?
Why not?
I'm down.
I'll be his assistant. Listen, Go
ahead, Mark.
I thought there was something interesting that I had read about today. There were two things I thought about bringing up. The playoffs, since Lisa mentioned the word and I said the word out loud. 62% of MLS teams make the playoffs. So for us, it's really not that difficult. If you play average or just a little bit above average, you're going to get in the playoffs. But that doesn't mean anything to us.
Hence why I said it was a requirement.
We should be in the playoffs every year, especially considering who our benefactors are. Those guys over in Austria selling the fizzy drink. They make a lot of money. They're not spending it here, and when they are spending it, they're spending it foolishly. There was another thing I was reading about today about our expectations. Going back to the beginning of the season. We sort of had that feeling that we could do something with this team. But, when we talk about Van Zier started the season injured. We were missing Morgan. He was injured in the playoffs last year.
I asked, I said, has this guy ever been healthy since he got here?
The problem, of course, this season has had starts and stops like you wouldn't believe. I mean, this is like rush hour traffic on 7th Avenue. All right. I mean, it just, we go, we stop, we go, we stop, we go. It's that was between the injuries. And listen, a lot of teams face injuries. Okay. It's how you cope with it. Right. But when your first guy off the bench is Corey Burke, and he's got 2 left feet, you got to start looking at who was signing these guys. That's the first thing.
Sounded good on paper for about until he
actually put his cleats on. So So here we are looking at the course of our season. And we were talking about it in the summer, saying don't say the P word, because we weren't doing that well.
No.
We got into Leagues Cup, started to get a little bit on a run, started playing a little bit better. And look, I'm with Lanre. I think Troy needs another year, because one, you're not going to go out and you're not going to find somebody that's just going to step in and take over.
Oh no.
Nope.
I don't know that.
Not even if he dropped in from the sky. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to
guy.
find some top shelf guy. I mean, and then I'm not knocking Troy at all by saying he's not a top shelf guy, but realistically, he's got very little experience at the MLS level and beyond. Yeah, he coached in USL and he started New Mexico from nothing, right? And took them to
built that club.
Yeah, and took them quite far.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For those of you who don't know, he built that club
Yeah.
from the ground up.
Because he wasn't just the head coach; he was the sporting
director. Right.
So, that was something like, when we joke about Hamlet. What was Hamlet's qualifications for sporting director? That he was an assistant coach under Jesse. I mean, where did he qualify to be a sporting director? And I see the guy every time I go to the second team games, and he doesn't want to have conversations with us. He knows.
Doesn't want to have conversations with the fans at all, because they're pretty much written them off.
So I think considering when you look back and you start with where we were at the beginning of the season, we had some expectations, but we also had tempered them because of injuries and all the other things that were going on, and just not having all the pieces in place. And we never got to the point where we had all the pieces in place. And I'm leaving out the whole Struber thing right now, because that was just an absolute nightmare. Troy walked in to, I can't say the word, all right, but the F-bomb might not be a good idea, but he walked into a disaster. I mean, he was on the bench, obviously, he steps up, he takes over. The show is in shambles.
An unhappy. Yeah. I'm going to wrap this up because we're running out of time. Unhappy coach, who basically he wanted to leave. Okay, he was unhappy that and he's quite doing very well over in Salzburg. Thank you very much. Who go figure. Okay, look now, Lanre, but.
That was the ultimate plan anyway. So
but because he was able to get the group together and play like they played now, is something that that gives me a little bit hope toward the future. Now, here's the thing that which is I'm having a little trepidation here, is that if you're going to bring him in for next season, okay, you better give this guy some weapons, okay, because what he has, even if there are guys that were injured coming back, it's still not enough. Not even close enough. I mean, you got walked out of the club in Chester, okay? You went up against the number one team, okay, in the playoffs with your bench. Let me repeat that. Your bench, okay? And although all you did was annoy them and their fans, you still got knocked out. Now, that's like a cruiserweight going up against a heavyweight and punch him in the nose a couple of times and piss him off until he finally knocks your head through the canvas. And that's basically what happened here, okay? So it just, I watch a lot of boxing. So it just, you say it's not enough. It's not enough. You got one of the midfielders keep getting me bodied off the ball. I love Edelman, but the dude needs to hit the gym. I'm serious.
Oh my God.
The dude needs to hit the gym. He's running up against midfielders like linebackers and then knocking them off the ball, but he's got heart. I will give him that. He's got heart. But when I say dudes need to look in the mirror for next season, and I say this, and I'm going to move on to a break. There's some quality on that roster. I know a lot of people don't think so, but there's some quality. But what you need to do is you need to augment what you got, okay, with someone better. And I don't mean supplant them. I mean augment it, okay? You need some veteran ballers. And I'm not talking about high price. If you can get that high price baller, fine, get him. But somebody that can able to take this crew and go, let's go. I'll show you how you guys win. Show these guys how to win. Okay? They know how to ball. Show these guys how to win. And that's it. We're going to take ourselves we're going to take ourselves a little break here. When we return, the one and only. Remember Gotham FC? Remember last year when they were literally down in the dumps and couldn't buy a win. Now there happened to be one win away from winning it all. We'll have a gentleman that's coming with us who's going to tell you all about it and how and their chances of doing just that. See you back here in 30 seconds. Following New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. Yes, I've gotten it backwards in the past. I know that. This gentleman here to our lower right of the screen, his name is Garry Gibson. He is the producer along with Ruby, and they talk all about Gotham FC. And lately, they've had a lot to talk about. Garry, good evening, sir. Welcome to the program. Right about now, let me just ask you this. Based on what happened last year, okay? The gentlemen, all of us, we're very concerned about these ladies. We was like, what the hell is going on over there? Why can't they just simply buy a win? And now they're literally one victory, one away from winning the whole thing. Did you and Ruby had any idea that you were going to the season was going to wind up like this?
Hope is necessary when it comes to this team. We all knew last year that this roster could compete. It was a decent roster. It had full of veterans, top to bottom, World Cup winners, NWSL champions, Shield winners. It just was a bad situation with a coach that was not prepared to handle the type of responsibilities that was needed, and they did not have the back end together. We had just got rid of the GM. We got a brand new GM who's never been a GM before. And it was a big mess last season, and they put their hearts into it. But just there were certain points in the season where we're just like, okay, this team is just not competitive. But towards the end, they put it together, and I think we've talked about this before we got on the show. But that game, the last game of last season, when they came back from 3 down to tie 3-3 against Portland in the final game of the season at home, was electric, and it just put a stamp on like, okay, they can compete. So what's next? What can we do to get them to that next level? Because the heart is there, the talent is there. What can we do? And coming into this season, everything changed. We got a bunch of new players. Yael hired the best coach available, who's a statistical and tactical nerd, and puts together this impressive system with the highest pressing soccer team in women's soccer. And he put a plan of action into place, and basically they opened the checkbook and said, what do you need to do to get this done? And we'll get you any player that you want, get them on this team. And they went out and they bought players. They hit a home run in the draft. They only had they kept one draft pick, and she's rookie of the year, essentially. She'll probably get that next week. But they hit a home run on pretty much every single level this season. The team is playing as a team, and they're capable of beating anybody. And that's what's so exciting about it. So at the beginning of the season, I think 6th place, making it to the playoffs, I think was probably our expectation, because there was so many moving parts, so many new things, whatever. But this whole season, they fell below the playoff line one time, and that was in the 2nd week of the season. Just one time. Otherwise, they've been above the line the entire season. So whether they made it into 6th or 1st into the playoffs doesn't matter. They're in the playoffs, and they're good enough to beat anybody. And once they're in, they could win anything.
Lanre.
Okay, Garry. So one question I have is this. Steadfast veteran of the team, obviously 2-time World Cup winner, Ali Krieger. She's been the heart and soul of this team. 39 years old. She seems set on leading this team to winning the NWSL championship. What has her impact been on the team since she joined last season?
I'm astounded by. I make this joke, but I'm like, find someone who talks about you the way the teammates talk about Ali Krieger, because she is not only an incredible person off the field, she's an incredible leader, and there is nothing stopping her in her way this season. And she's put this team on her back. She's playing some of her best soccer that she's ever played. On average, in the NWSL, like a central defender gets beaten 1 out of every 3 times on the dribble, and she has been beaten 4% of the time. And she's going against players that are 20 years younger than her. We just played a game, which we'll probably get to, against Sophia Smith, who's probably top 3 attacker in the entire world, and she shut her down. She went stride for stride with her, didn't give her anything, and at the end of the game, 0 dribbles passed. She's been incredible. I'm amazed by her and her leadership. I've never seen anything like it. Her will to win and get to that next level is unmatched. And she's not doing it like we've had players on this team that have been national team players that have done amazing things, but they were a little bit selfish, I can say. Allie's not only winning this for herself, but she is bringing the entire team with her to the finish line, and it is impressive and incredible to watch. And I'm just humbled to be along for the ride with her.
Okay, Mark, you're up, man.
I have to agree with you, Gary. When I was watching the game, I know the announcers had made a comment about her getting the yellow card, and there was a question on whether it was going to be a red. Yeah. And they were talking about how that could be the last time she touched the ball and be on the field. And I was like, no way. I'm like, but I agree. It was phenomenal to watch her all game. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I love when we get bonus soccer. So 30 minutes extra time, why not? I got nothing else to do on a Sunday.
Oh, but before you get going, I was at Red Bull Arena Saturday night, so I got extra time, and I was already
more extra time. Yeah, no, I was. Listen, when I got up this morning, I realized it's been a long soccer weekend.
Yes,
it was tough. So my question to you, we mentioned last year versus this year, and the big question becomes, how does Gotham expand themselves? Because yes, there's been a boost in attendance this year, mm-hmm. and you've seen it increase. But what takes them to the next level, and how do they get there?
I think you're seeing it. I think they put the investment in, and when they jumped from Sky Blue FC to New York, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC,
he's doing it too.
Championship at Sky Blue FC, if last I checked.
They won the championship before was the NWSL, so they never won it during the NWSL.
Right?
Okay.
Yes, this is their second time in the playoffs in this entire run, which is pretty crazy.
Because people have been asking me, it was like, okay, wait a minute, didn't they win before Sky Blue FC? I said, yes.
Yeah, it was like WPS or something. Yeah,
something like that. Women's Professional Soccer League or whatever the heck that was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't run very well, and neither was the team. But continue.
Yes. So they put the investment into the roster, and this coaching staff is doing the right things. And for the first time since I've been a fan of this team, they're developing young players. I've been covering this team, and we've had players keep going overseas because they just can't get any minutes. No one's playing them. They're not developing. But this year, they developed 3 midfielders who are not heralded players, but they are incredible. We got a 24-year-old goalkeeper who's announcing herself to the world right now. She's incredible. And they're doing the things of not just getting veterans minutes and building a team that can win, but they're building that next generation of players that are coming up through, and they're going to be stacked for years and years and years as long as the investment's there. And going back to going to New York, New Jersey FC, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, then once they put that New York into their logo, it just opened up the doors for investors, because as soon as they did, here comes Eli Manning, here comes Kevin Durant, here comes Sue Bird, and everyone starts throwing in money because everyone wants to be a part of the New York soccer landscape. And it's blowing up. And I think the biggest thing, which goes under the radar a lot, is they hired the head of operations, Mary Wittenberg, who's an A-list CEO. I'm talking an A-list CEO. And she built the New York Marathon. She was a CEO of the New York.
To where it is right now.
Correct.
I mean, it's a powerhouse.
Yeah, and she knows how to get the ground going in New York. She knows the ground game in New York. I think that is the next level, is getting that ground game going. And because I can say this because I'm on your podcast, but they tried a little bit to get into the New York FC, market, and they didn't seem very much interested in it. So I'm sure there are some fans from NYCFC that they do both, but for the most part, it's got to be done holistically and on the ground and from a new fan base, essentially.
A couple of questions that bear to mind with me. compared from last year to this year. It's really something very exciting, to see. In a way, I'm a little jealous at the of how the transformation is
Mhm.
with that club between now, because this is something that we Red Bull fans would love to see. Okay, and it doesn't really take very much in order to get that investment. Now, all we've heard from the last, I don't know what, for the last 5 or 6 years, that there's going to be some improvement. We need to keep the faith and blah, blah, blah. Well, fans have done that. No, fans have just about had it. But when I look around women's soccer, I'm looking in Europe, I'm looking in Spain, I'm even looking in Italy, and I'm seeing these women ball. Fellas, okay, this is the reason why other countries are catching up to the United States, and their play is incredible. And the thing is, when because I'm a big follower of women's sports, basketball and all that, basketball, volleyball, soccer, and all that good stuff. My first thought was, when I saw when I saw this, we're seeing two of our biggest superstars in the women's game, in the women's national team, who are responsible for stars number 2, 3, okay, aboard their crest. I'm talking about Ali Krieger. I'm talking about Megan Rapinoe, and they're going to be this, you know, this freight trains are going to be coming. They're going to clash at each other. So we've seen OL Reign play against the Gotham. What are your take on this? How you see this championship is going to go? Matter of fact, for many of us, well, this is probably going to be the only championship game we're going to see this year. But given the fact that you follow the NWSL, in particular Gotham FC, what they're going to be looking for, what to look for if they're going to win it all. I mean, what is the things that they have to do? What are the things they must not do? Because for what I saw, when I saw OL Reign taking out San Diego, the perennial favorite. Okay, I mean, they were basically penciling them, but until they got knocked out, 1-0.
Yeah.
How do you see them winning this match? I mean, is it business as usual, or do they got to go above and beyond the knockout OL Reign?
Gotham is the top pressing team in women's soccer. And what makes them so dangerous is that they're not only pressing the heck out of teams and they're turning them over near their goal line and pressing them into their corner flags, game in and game out, but
Sound
they're
familiar?
also good on both sides of the ball. Their defense is incredible. And the strength of OL is getting balls in. They're a team that just crosses the ball all game long, and they're going to hit you down the flanks. And Rapinoe's going to play balls behind you. They're going to Huerta on the other side and just play balls in. They have a very tall number 9. But Gotham's strength is just on the wings. They have not only the two really young but two-way defenders, and Bruninha, who's a superstar Brazilian,
Wow.
and Jenna Neiswanger, who's going to be the rookie of the year, hopefully. Hopefully when those announce them next week. But they both get forward and they pressure. But also you have Midge Purse and Lynn Williams, who are relentless defenders. So they're going to stay back and they own the sides of the pitch. I think the first time they played them this season, they got 0 crosses off. And when the highest crossing teams in the league got 0 crosses off the first time Gotham played them, and they play them off the pitch. I think matchup-wise, I think this is the best matchup for Gotham. As far as stylistically, I think this is going to be their match. And as you guys know, going into the playoffs, it's not like, can you win a championship? It's, can you win the next game? And they went to North Carolina. Can they beat North Carolina in North Carolina? Sure. Why not? They know how to turn team strengths into weaknesses. Then can they beat Portland on the road? Sure. And what they did with Portland, they just played a relentless defense. And it was two teams that are super well coached, know who they are, know their styles, and it was a chess match and a stalemate for 105 minutes until Gotham broke free. It was fantastic. Gotham knows how to play different ways, and I think this game, I think they stylistically are better than OL, and I think they'll get it done.
Wow. It just, it just, it really, it really is a very, a great season issue. We have a good news, bad news scenario where, okay, the team gets knocked out, but then there's hope. I would love to see Gotham be the epicenter, okay, when it comes to women's soccer, and a lot of girls around the area that do play soccer now they have now they have an aim, now they have a mission. So I want to play for them, and such. Being where being where basically the men's team, Lanre and Mark, how competitive that is when it comes from young guys. Okay, especially in this area. I'm going to ask you guys this question, all three of you. Do you see the same for women's soccer?
I'll let you guys go first because my answer is probably very complicated.
Yeah, go ahead, Lanre.
Okay. Yeah. I do see a lot of growth and interest in women's soccer, especially all around the world. With how the rest of the world is catching up, I also do see New York, New Jersey becoming an epicenter of women's soccer the same way it is for men's soccer. Especially with Gotham's performance now, I think a lot of young girls are going to look up to that, see Gotham's performance in the playoffs, and they're going to want to really grind hard to make the league, make the U.S. women's national team, and maybe one day play for Gotham FC.
I think that Garry and I are both fans of basketball, and it was unfortunate the Liberty fell short this year.
Very.
It's tough. And especially since the Knicks have brought me no love and no joy for some time, and I was hoping the Liberty might be the ones to bring me some, but that didn't work out too well. But there's I guess, like, from where I'm looking, the women's basketball league has not grown the way it should have grown at this point. I mean, it's been established for a while. You'd think there'd be more franchises. Soccer, I'm looking at, the NWSL has 12 franchises.
Soon to be 13.
Yes. But then if you have 13, you need a 14th.
Yep.
And it's
14.
That's the American way. So once you have 14, you're going to want to go to 16. So the question becomes, which markets are they going to look to expand? But they have to have a solid base. And if we can be one of those solid bases, and I think that playing, as much as we all moan and groan about how difficult it is to get in and out of Harrison, everybody says the same thing. Red Bull Arena is a phenomenal place to play. It's a phenomenal place to be a spectator.
Once you get there.
Yeah. Listen, if you leave 2.5 hours early like I do, I get there and I tailgate for an hour and a half and then walk in. And then by the time I walk in, there's still 5 minutes left of warm-up time. I'm good with that. It's the hour and a half getting out of the parking lot that's tough sometimes.
That's why you take the train, Mark.
We discussed that pre-show. Yeah. You can't take the train when you live in Bergen County. It just doesn't work. So, but that's like I said. I guess that's my, like, I love the fact that they had such a huge turnaround in attendance this year. Obviously, they're playing better. If they continue to keep that level, and the attendance continues to grow, you're not going to see exponential growth. But if it continues to grow to the point where you're selling out the bottom bowl, and you're getting people interested, and you're getting people showing up, then I think that the women's league continues to grow, and it flourishes. And that's we were, when you were talking about Sky Blue, this is, if I'm not 100% sure, this is the third women's league we've had in the U.S.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're talking about, you've already had two others that folded. We discussed the Cosmos earlier. And, we discussed the fact that there's a lot of lower leagues within the U.S. And the top tier didn't really take off until MLS was established. And it's still growing. But it's 28 years old now. Baseball's over 100 years old. The NFL's been around for 80, 90 years.
You're not going to eclipse that.
Yeah,
no.
You're never going to. but like I said, and that's the other part of the issue that we all face, especially in the New York area. You have to be relevant. Mm-hmm. If you, Garry and I, lifelong Yankee fans, right? In 1996, you look at April, May, June of 96, attendance numbers at Yankee Stadium, nobody was going. They had made the wild card in '95, but Don Mattingly retired.
And that was it.
It's like people weren't showing up, and people were like, "Who's starting at shortstop? Derek who? Who is this kid?" Nobody knew him. Nobody. And listen, even Joe Torre said he wasn't sure about starting him. So you look at how well they built up. Now, this past year, the Yankees had seen a drop in attendance because the product's not there. But I think if the girls are able to maintain that level, you're going to see the attendance continue to grow. And that's I think where the league needs to see that they have solid bases throughout the country. And then once the expansion starts, you're going to have lean years. Everybody has a lean year. But that's, like I said, to me, it's like that has to be part of their overall goal, is to keep going, and even if they win Saturday, it just can't be the one and done. But see, I have running one and behind me, it can't be one and done. It's not win and then we don't win for 30 years. I'm a Rangers fan. I know a lot about that.
Let me just ask this, Gary. I mean, you're going to lose Ali Krieger when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did a lot of media things with her. They paraded her around New York City. She became the face of the franchise. She's going to be gone when it's all said and done. Who do they promote next? I mean, I know they brought in, I forgot her name already. We got Brujina, who's been spectacular in defense, but she doesn't exactly bring the wattage. Many of the big crowds that you saw over the West Coast, okay, we're talking about Portland, we're talking about Seattle, we're talking about San Diego, and on and on and on. But here in the in the East Coast, we got a little juice for Krieger, but she's going to go. Goes back to my earlier question about the awareness of the club, because one thing about sports fans in this area, you're going to have your diehards, folks over at Sky, folks over in Cloud9, super people. They're terrific. Some of these guys are my friends over there. They're wonderful. They're wonderful and all that. But what about everybody else? We're talking about let's go see a women's soccer game and see how it is.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, what do you think they should go at? I mean, there's not that many women's teams, big names left when it's all said and done.
I disagree with you there.
Okay. Okay.
If you're looking at this roster is stacked. I mean, we brought this was the bench they brought to Portland. Okay. Ali Long, they brought Sinead Farrelly, Kelly O'Hara. We had Christy Mewis on the bench. These are 4 or 5 national team players that are well known. This team is stacked from top to the bottom, and they brought in World Cup winner Esther Gonzalez this year. They brought in Maitani Lopez from the Spanish national team. This team, and going back to the last question about building this team, all the cachet and everything was going towards the West Coast. When you had LA, Angel City coming in LA, you had San Diego building up over there, getting some name players over there. New York was starting to feel a little bit irrelevant as the season they had last season. So this was like a kind of a make or break year for them. So I'm glad they put the investment in. This roster again is so stacked and deep with stars that it's going to flow over. And hopefully if they do win this thing, even if they don't, I still think this season announced New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC as a destination. I think players want to come here now, and before,
when it was a case that it wasn't even an afterthought. I remember
we
days.
would draft players, and they would just be like, "Nope, I'm not signing for you guys. I'm out of here."
For those of you not very aware, back in the day during the Sky Blue days, the team was run horribly.
Yeah.
We're not going to waste anyone's time about this.
Why are you being so kind?
We're not going to do that because
it's a family show.
Plus, we're also running out of time because we all know that. But to see it here, it's great to see, right, fellas? It's great to see. But as we always say, it's how you sustain it. That's the question, right, guys? Because in this area, and been a sports fan for forever, one of the things that had the Yankees having staying power because they always won. Okay, Around here, they don't pay attention to you unless you win. And that's why I said, okay, I guess the dovetail into my question is having names that some soccer fans know about during the World Cup from the 99s up until now is great, okay? But in this area, is it enough? I know you and Ruby have discussed this, ad nauseum in many of your podcasts. So I guess the final question I have is, what does Gotham have to do from here? What do you feel they should, they should continue on with, their investment? They should be able to push the envelope. Do you feel they should be able to put their brand awareness? Because what we're seeing on the field is great. I would like to see, but every time when I turn on NWSL in other cities, what do I see? Sellout crowds. And then I look at Red Bull Arena, I'm like, all right, so what do they got to do now? What to bribe people to come see, women's footy? I mean, what is it? I mean, I'm excited for Gotham, but at the same time, I'm frustrated because that frustration also dovetails to the Red Bulls as well.
Yeah, I would say yes is the short answer for that. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's about winning. It's about building a brand, building awareness, getting that ground game going, and keep the investment going. They opened up the pocketbooks this year, and they really put together a roster that can win, and it's exciting. And the style of play is incredible. They have, and again, we talked about it being like the highest pressing team in women's soccer. It's a style that's identifiable. You know exactly who they are, and I think the biggest thing they need to do is put the stories of their players out there and build things like what you guys are building with your podcast, what we're building with our podcast. Tell the stories of these players, make these players relatable to the fans, make them accessible. And because when you get connected to a player, you want to invest in that team more. And you guys know that. I mean, I started as a Red Bull fan in 14, 15, and like Dax, BWP, Grella, Paranel, those were players that you just wanted to root for because you knew them. They had wonderful stories, and you were just invested in them. And then,
they were invested in the fan base. They literally went out of their way, to have that symbiotic relationship. I agree 100%.
Yes. My girlfriend was also a fan of the Rebels at that time, and over time, she said her favorite players were getting shipped off. And I remember we're sitting down watching TV one day and watching one of the games. I remember her just getting up and going, "I'm done." And because like every player, I think it was after Marsh left. I think that was like the last straw for her. But it's like being able to invest in those players and make them personalities that you can connect to. And that's hopefully what we do on our podcast when we do our interviews and stuff like that, is really tell the human side of them. And we want our fans to like really know these people as people and just be invested in them and get connected to them that way. I think that is one of the best ways to do it. And I think getting that ground game going in New York is going to be the best way to go forward.
All right. The last thing we'll do before we wrap up our show, just the last words. We've done that already. Let's talk about, since the there is no week break for the NWSL Championship. As a matter of fact, it takes place this Saturday between OL Reign and, of course, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. So, Mark, you have the first call. How do you see this match going? Do the Gotham girls win it, or you have other?
I don't know. I mean, based on I watched both games. That's why I'm exhausted. I was up a little late.
Mark is our canary in the coal mine when it comes to
oh my things. God! Yeah, no, it's listen. I went from I'm still a little hoarse. I mean, even at home, being at the arena for the first half Saturday, working, and then two women's games Sunday, and I'm screaming at the TV half the time. And I get my wife looking at me going, "Why are you getting so?"
Normally at the ref, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's generally where my ire ends up. But yeah. I see this as possibly going 0-0 and going to penalties. I mean, listen. OL Reign won their game 1-0. Gotham won their game 1-0. Mm-hmm. You're talking about two. There's only a point between these two during the regular season. I mean, they're very, very similar as far as their records. They have different styles of play, but they play to their strengths. So the question becomes, the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. Who wins? And I'd love to see Gotham win. And I don't know. Like I said, if either team can score, I think it might end 0-0. And then once you get to extra time, it literally is just luck that you get an open shot. People get tired, and if you can get through another 30 minutes, then it's going to penalties. Then it's just anybody's game at that point. And we don't like to talk about penalties right now.
All right, Lanre, your turn,
No.
man.
No.
How do you see this? I'm sure you watched both games at this point. Well, basically both the highlights. Something you see that Gotham can exploit?
I think they can exploit OL Reign's tendency to go down the flanks and just bomb crosses like Garry mentioned. Um, Also, as was mentioned in their meeting this season, completely prevented them from getting down the flanks that they're accustomed to, and then end up winning the game. I think if Gotham sticks to that game plan, what worked so well during the regular season against OL Reign, then I think they could take it easily 1-0.
Mm.
If not, if OL Reign finds a way to get to the normal spots, then it could be definitely a tougher matchup. But I'm gonna go 1-0 Gotham win.
For me, it's going to be a tight game regardless. But there's a couple of things that I saw in OL Reign that kind of, if I was an OL Reign fan, I would be very concerned. One thing, of course, is the midfielders. I don't know why, but when they play wide, they play slow. I don't like it. If I'm their fan, that's a concern of mine because Gotham's midfielders are speedy as hell. I mean, their one-touch passing is ridiculous. Never mind the press because that's what they do. They'll press you in the corner a la Red Bull, and if you make a mistake, they're going to punish you. That said, I don't see this as a high-scoring game, fellas. I'm going to see this really 2-0 for Gotham, mainly because if they can able to, based on what I saw when they met earlier in the season, whatever OL Reign tried to do with bombing the crosses into the box and everything else, they just didn't allow that to happen, and they pressed them against the wings. If they can do that all day, all game, Gotham's got the game. However, the one thing that would allow OL Reign to get past San Diego, and remember, San Diego has a very high-powered offense, which means they got a defense. Slow it may be, but a defense nevertheless, okay? So if they get their defense on early in the game, it's going to be, like Mark said, it's going to be tight, it's going to be scored, but I think someone's going to punch it in late. But I do see this as basically this is a 2-0 win. Should Gotham get their get their foot on the ground early and often, because they do have that, with all that high-powered offense, Williams, that top three. Oh boy, they'll once they smell blood in the water, they'll start shooting, and that's But the only thing they might keep them grounded, Gary. OL's got a defense. We'll see. We'll see. Irresistible object versus inimitable force. We'll see what comes up. You have the final word, sir.
My only concern is you're taking Gotham's midfield, who's been fantastic. We're talking 24, and 25 years old, going against one of the most experienced midfielders in Lavelle and in Fishlock and in Rapinoe. So that is a little bit of a concern to me. But I think that Gotham is going to exploit them on the wings, and they're going to turn their strengths into weaknesses, and they're going to press them. They're going to keep them on their side of the field. I'm hoping for one goal in the first half, one goal in the second half, close it out. Let's go home with the trophy.
All right. Last little word before, of course, we close the show, because in case anybody missed it, Portland Thorns losing to Gotham FC. Mr. Stengel, Katie Stengel, in the 107th minute. It was a howitzer shot that went into the upper corner of the net and sent everybody who was rooting for Gotham FC into rapture, and that's how they will face it into the final. They are one win away. Think about that for a second. One win away from winning it all over there. The game will take place, of course, in San Diego. Win or draw, lose or go home. That's one of the great cities I would love to visit there. one of these days. I'm sure it's going to be a very good crowd, despite the fact that their home team will not be there. Garry, Gibson, and Ruby can be heard in the Soccer Over Gotham podcast. And once the game starts, they run an excellent thread for all the fans to join in on the fun. Do join them because it's going to be a fun Saturday night. The gentlemen will all be watching to see if history will be made. I know that because our team is history, right, fellas? So we got nothing but the offseason.
You had to say that, right?
You really
had
had
to say
to.
that. I mean, hey, we got some bonus footy other than something to look forward to, other than getting depressed watching, English Premier League soccer. So there we go.
Oh, Arsenal.
Chelsea got that win.
And that.
Who?
And you should be happy.
Who?
Chelsea.
Hey,
The only one
hey,
that's
you got something
Don't
stuck
make
in your
me-
throat,
hey,
man.
don't make me mute you over there with your Chelsea. And so that puts the end of episode 93. We thank Mr. Garry Gibson for joining us tonight. As always, you guys have been wonderful with your support for the podcast. We got one more episode to go before, as we call the traditional post-season postscript. Of course, we'll be talking about Gotham FC when it's all said and done. I'll be joined with Carlos Cano and, of course, Miguel Nunez. Wondering what Arsenal shirt he's going to wear this time. So, as always, if you have any questions, comments, and, of course, you want to make the show better, please feel free to drop us a line at rbdgthepodcast@gmail.com. We'll read all your emails, and, of course, we want the show to be better. And once again, thank you very much for your joining us for this hour. We will see you next week, boys and girls. Go Gotham! Go Bats! Let's see if we can able to make history together. For Mark Coates, Lanre Badmus, Garry Gibson, and myself, Gary Redmond, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week as the final countdowns for the season begins. Till then, good night and goodbye for now.